A spaceship moved quietly through the dark space above Earth. Inside the ship, Commander Crickstall looked at the blue planet below. His 6 eyes studied the screens that showed him pictures of the strange creatures living on this world. The Zephyrian Empire had been watching Earth for 3 long years. What they saw made them believe these humans were the weakest species in the galaxy. Elena Rodriguez walked along the beach in San Diego. She carried a bucket filled with medicine for the hurt dolphins in the rescue center. Her hands were gentle as she touched each animal. She spoke softly to them, like they were her own children. The alien cameras watched her every move from high above the clouds. They recorded how she spent hours caring for 6 sea creatures without asking for anything in return. "Look at this one," said Dr. Vexai, pointing at Elena on the screen. "She spends all day helping animals that cannot even thank her. What kind of warrior species wastes time on such things?" Commander Crickstall made notes on his datapad. These humans confused him. They had no claws, no sharp teeth, no armor on. Their skin. They were soft and pink, like baby creatures that had not learned to fight yet. But they had somehow become the top species on their planet. This made no sense to him. In Portland, Oregon, Jake Peterson finished his work at the construction site. His strong hands had built homes for families all day. Now he walked to the house next door, where old Mrs. Chun needed help carrying her groceries. Jake smiled and took the heavy bags from her hands. He carried them to her kitchen and would not take any money for his help. "Thank you, Jake," Mrs. Chun said. "You are such a good boy." Jake just nodded and went back to his own house. He did not know that alien eyes were watching him from space. They saw only a big, strong human who chose to help weak old people instead of fighting them. This made the aliens think humans were not dangerous at all. Maria Santos stood in front of her classroom full of children. She had been teaching them about numbers and letters for 6 hours. Some kids were slow learners, but Maria never got angry. She just found new ways to explain the same thing over and over. Her voice stayed calm and patient, even when the children made mistakes. "Remember, Tommy," she said to a boy who could not read the word on the board. "Take your time. Sound it out slowly." The boy tried again and got it right. Maria smiled and clapped her hands. The alien watchers saw this and wrote in their reports that humans spent their time teaching their young instead of training them to fight. What strange creatures these were. Ben Clark worked in his fields outside the small town of Cedar Falls. His farm grew corn and vegetables that fed hundreds of families. He knew every inch of his land, every hill and valley. He could tell you which way the wind was blowing and how the weather would change tomorrow. Ben worked from sunrise to sunset, but he never complained. When storms came, Ben would walk through his fields in the rain and mud to save his crops. He knew exactly where to find shelter and how to move without making noise. The aliens saw a simple farmer who grew food. They did not see a man who could track anything across any kind of ground. The alien research team met in their main control room. The walls were covered with screens showing different humans doing everyday things. Some humans were cooking food, others were painting pictures, and some were playing music. None of them looked like fighters. "These creatures are perfect," said Commander Crickstall. "They have no weapons, no armor, no fighting skills. They spend all their time making things instead of breaking them. They will welcome us as their new leaders." Dr. Vexai nodded. "Look at how they treat their weak ones. They do not leave them behind to die. They care for them and protect them. This is not how predators behave." The aliens had studied many worlds before Earth. They knew that dangerous species fought each other for food and territory. They killed the weak and kept only the strong. But humans did the opposite. They shared their food, built homes for everyone, and took care of their sick and old. In the city of Chicago, Lisa Murphy worked at her flower shop. She arranged beautiful flowers into pretty patterns. Her customers were mostly people buying gifts for friends and family. Lisa knew every flower's name and how to make them last longer. She treated each flower like it was precious. The aliens watched Lisa and saw only a gentle creature who spent her days making things beautiful. Did not see the way her eyes constantly scanned the room, checking every person who walked in. They did not notice how she always stood where she could see both the front and back doors at the same time. Kevin Harris ran a small workshop where he made furniture from wood. His hands were skilled at carving and shaping. He made chairs, tables, and toys for children. People came from far away to buy his work because it was so well made. Kevin took pride in creating things that would last for many years. The watching aliens saw Kevin as a simple craftsman who made useful objects. They did not understand that his knowledge of wood and tools could be turned into weapons at any moment. They did not see how his workshop was arranged so he could grab any tool he needed in the dark. Carol Jensen worked at the public library in her small town. She helped people find books and information they needed. Carol knew where every book was located and could find any answer to any question. She was quiet and kind, always ready to help anyone who asked. The aliens saw Carol as a keeper of knowledge who shared information freely. They thought this proved humans were not competitive or secretive like warrior species. They did not realize that Carol's skill at gathering and organizing information was exactly what made her dangerous. As the months passed, the aliens became more certain that Earth would be easy to conquer. They saw a world full of helpers and builders, not fighters and killers. They saw creatures who chose to create instead of destroy, who protected the weak instead of abandoning them. Commander Krickstahl sent his final report to the Galactic Council. The human species poses no threat to our expansion. They are a peaceful race of caretakers who have somehow survived by luck rather than strength. I recommend immediate invasion. We will face no real resistance. The order came back quickly. The invasion fleet would launch in 1 month. Earth would become the newest colony of the Zephyrian Empire. The aliens began preparing their ships and weapons for what they believed would be the easiest conquest in their history. Alina Rodriguez finished feeding the last dolphin of the day. She locked up the rescue center and walked to her car. Tomorrow would bring another day of caring for injured animals. She had no idea that alien eyes were watching her, or that those aliens had made a terrible mistake about what humans really were. The mistake would cost them everything. The morning sun was bright over the farmer's market in Portland, Oregon. Lisa Murphy arranged her fresh tomatoes in neat rows on her wooden table. The red fruit looked perfect after weeks of careful growing. She had been selling vegetables at this market for 5 years, and people always said her tomatoes were the best in the city. Kevin Harris set up his booth next to Lisa's table. He brought chairs and small tables he had made in his workshop. His hands moved quickly as he arranged his wooden creations. Children often stopped to watch him work, amazed by how he could turn rough wood into beautiful furniture. Another busy Saturday, Lisa said to Kevin with a smile. Hope so, Kevin replied, testing the strength of a chair leg. Mrs. Patterson wants a dining table for her family reunion next month. The market was filling up with people. Families walked between the booths, buying fresh food and handmade goods. Old couples held hands as they picked out flowers. Children ran between the tables, laughing and playing. It was a perfect picture of peaceful human life. High above the clouds, the Zephyrian invasion fleet moved into position. Commander Krickstahl stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the humans below through his viewing screen. Everything looked exactly as his spies had reported. These creatures were gathered together with no weapons, no guards, no defenses of any kind. Begin the descent, Commander Krickstahl ordered. Show them our power. They will surrender immediately when they see our ships. The first alien ship broke through the clouds like a giant metal bird. Its shadow fell across the farmer's market as it descended. The ship was 3 times bigger than any building in Portland. Strange lights pulsed along its sides, and a low humming sound filled the air. People at the market stopped what they were doing. Some pointed at the sky. Others took pictures with their phones. A few children started crying, scared by the huge ship above them. But most people just stood there, looking up in wonder. "Perfect," Commander Crickstall said. "Look how they stand. They're like helpless animals. They do not even try to run." The alien ship landed in the empty field next to the market. The ground shook under its weight. A large door opened on the side of the ship, and Zephyrian soldiers marched out. They wore black armor and carried weapons that glowed with blue energy. Their 6 eyes scanned the crowd of humans. Commander Crickstall walked out last. He was taller than his soldiers, with golden markings on his armor that showed his rank. He expected to see humans falling to their knees in fear and respect. Instead, he saw something that confused him. Lisa Murphy was not staring at the aliens in wonder. She was moving through the crowd, speaking quietly to other people. Her voice was calm, but firm as she gave instructions. "Take the children to the school building. Move slowly. Do not run. Stay low behind the cars." Kevin Harris was no longer the quiet woodworker the aliens had watched for months. He grabbed a hammer from his toolbox and moved to stand between the aliens and the fleeing families. His whole body had changed. His shoulders were straight, his eyes were alert, and he moved like a man who had been in fights before. "What is happening?" Dr. Vexhai asked from inside the ship. "Why are they not submitting?" Elena Rodriguez appeared at the edge of the market, but she was not the gentle marine biologist the aliens had been watching. She wore dark clothes and carried equipment they had never seen before. She spoke into a small device, using words the aliens did not understand. "Alpha Team, secure the north exit. Bravo Team, evacuate civilians to the school. Charlie Team, establish overwatch positions on the rooftops. This is not a drill." The aliens watched in shock as the humans transformed before their eyes. The flower seller became a tactical coordinator. The woodworker became a warrior. The marine biologist became a military commander. It was like watching sheep turn into wolves. Jake Peterson came running from the construction site 3 blocks away. He brought other workers with him, all carrying tools that could be used as weapons. They moved together like a team that had trained for years. Jake looked at the alien ship and knew exactly what needed to be done. "Tane, get the loader and block the main road. Eddie, call everyone on the radio. Tell them we have contact. Sarah, start moving the cars to make barriers." The aliens realized they were not looking at panicked civilians anymore. These humans were working together with the precision of soldiers. Every person knew their job, and they did it without question or hesitation. Maria Santos appeared with a group of other teachers. She was no longer the patient woman who spent her days with children. Her voice was sharp and clear as she directed the evacuation. "School bus drivers, get your vehicles ready. We need to move the children to the safe houses outside town." Ben Clark arrived with a truck full of farmers from the surrounding area. These men and women had dropped their farming tools and picked up hunting rifles. They spread out around the market, taking positions that gave them clear shots at the aliens. Ben's knowledge of the land helped him place his people where they would be most effective. Commander Crickstall felt the first touch of fear. This was not going according to plan. The humans were supposed to be helpless and frightened. Instead, they were organized and ready to fight. How had gentle farmers and shopkeepers become soldiers so quickly? "Surrender now, Commander Crickstall." announced through his ship's speakers. "We are the Zephyrian Empire. You cannot resist us." Elena Rodriguez stepped forward to speak for the humans. But she was not the soft-spoken woman who cared for dolphins. This Elena had cold eyes and a voice like steel. "You picked the wrong planet, alien. And you picked the wrong species." The aliens fired a warning shot into the air, expecting it to scatter the humans in terror. Instead, the humans used the sound to coordinate their next move. They had all heard that kind of sound before, in other places, in other wars. Lisa Murphy's voice came over the radio system that had appeared from nowhere. "All units, weapons free. Protect the civilians. Make them pay for every inch." The aliens suddenly realized they were not facing a planet of sheep. They were facing a planet of predators who had been pretending to be sheep. Every human in the market was a hunter who had been hiding their true nature. Kevin Harris threw his hammer with deadly accuracy, hitting an alien soldier in the chest. The alien fell backward, shocked that this quiet furniture maker could fight like a warrior. Jake Peterson used his construction equipment to build barriers and traps. Maria Santos coordinated the defense with the skill of a general. The aliens retreated to their ship, confused and frightened. They had expected an easy victory over a peaceful species. Instead, they found themselves in a real fight against an enemy that knew how to fight back. "Fall back to the ship," Commander Krickstall ordered. "We need to reassess the situation." As the alien ship lifted off, the humans watched it go. They had shown their true faces for the first time in years. The gentle farmers and shopkeepers were gone. In their place stood the warriors they had always been. Elena Rodriguez spoke into her radio one more time. "Contact made. Enemy retreating. Begin Phase 2 of the defense plan." The aliens fled back to space, sending urgent messages to their fleet. Earth was not the easy target they had expected. The humans were not helpless prey. They were apex predators who had been waiting for someone to threaten their home. The hunt was about to begin. Commander Krickstall stood in the control room of his ship, staring at the screens that showed the battle footage from the farmer's market. His 6 eyes watched the same scenes over and over again. The humans had changed from peaceful civilians into skilled fighters in just minutes. This should have been impossible. "Run the deep scans again," he ordered his research team. "Find out what we missed." Dr. Vex High worked at his computer, pulling up all the data they had collected about the humans during their 3 years of watching Earth. The alien scientist had been so sure that humans were weak and harmless. Now he needed to understand how they had been so wrong. "Commander, look at this," Dr. Vex High said, pointing to his screen. "I found something about the marine biologist, Elena Rodriguez." The screen showed Elena's full history, not just the parts the aliens had been watching. She had not always worked with dolphins and sea creatures. Before that, she had been something called a Navy SEAL. The alien computer translated the human military records, and Dr. Vex High felt his blood turn cold. Elena Rodriguez had been trained as an underwater warrior. She had fought in 3 different wars on other continents. She knew how to kill enemies while swimming in dark water. She could hold her breath for 10 minutes and swim for miles without getting tired. She had been part of secret missions that even other humans did not know about. But she was so gentle with the animals, Dr. Vex High said, confused. She spent hours caring for hurt dolphins. She never showed any violence. "Keep reading," Commander Krickstall ordered. The record showed that Elena had left the military after her last mission. She had seen too much death and decided to use her skills to save lives instead of taking them. Her gentle care for sea creatures used the same steady hands that had once planted explosives on enemy ships. Her patience with injured animals came from the same mind that had once planned military strikes. "She is still a warrior," Commander Krickstall realized. She just chose to heal instead of kill. Dr. Vexhai pulled up the file on Jake Peterson, the construction worker who had helped old Mrs. Chun with her groceries. The alien scientist expected to find a simple laborer, but he found something much more dangerous than Jake Peterson had been. A demolitions expert in the Army Rangers. He knew how to destroy any building, bridge, or vehicle. His job had been to blow up enemy structures and clear paths for other soldiers. He had served in the most dangerous places on Earth, where only the best fighters could survive. "Look at this," Dr. Vexhai said, showing the screen to his commander. He knows exactly how buildings are made because he used to destroy them. When he helps old people, he is really studying the neighborhood. He knows every street, every house, every place to hide or fight. The aliens realized that Jake's construction job was perfect training for war. He knew how to build barriers quickly, how to create traps, and how to use heavy machinery as weapons. His weekend hobby of helping neighbors was actually reconnaissance, learning about his territory in case he ever needed to defend it. Commander Crickstall felt a chill run through his alien body. What about the teacher, Maria Santos? The files on Maria were even more disturbing. She had been a military intelligence analyst who specialized in psychological operations. Her job had been to get information from enemy prisoners by talking to them and understanding how their minds worked. She could make people tell her secrets without them realizing what they were doing. She was an interrogator, Dr. Vexhai whispered. She used her understanding of minds to break enemy soldiers. Now she uses the same skills to teach children. Maria's patience with slow-learning students was the same patience she had used when questioning captured enemies. Her ability to explain complex ideas in simple words had once helped her trick enemy agents into revealing their plans. She had been one of the most skilled psychological warriors in the human military. And the farmer, Ben Clark? Commander Crickstall asked, though he was beginning to fear the answer. Ben Clark had been a sniper, one of the best in the world. He could shoot a target from over a mile away, even in bad weather. He understood wind patterns, bullet trajectories, and camouflage better than any other human. He had spent months alone in enemy territory, watching and waiting for the perfect shot. His farming is just hunting, Dr. Vexhai said with growing horror. He knows every hill and valley because he used to hide in them. He can predict the weather because snipers need to know how wind and rain affect their shots. He grows food now, but he could grow death just as easily. The aliens began to understand the terrible truth. Earth's military was not separate from its civilian population. The civilians were the military. They had not retired from war. They had just taken a break from it. Every human they had studied was a trained killer who had chosen to build instead of destroy. Commander Crickstall ordered his team to check the files on Lisa Murphy, the gentle woman who sold tomatoes at the farmer's market. They found records of her service as a combat medic in the Marine Corps. She had saved lives on battlefields while enemy bullets flew around her. Her gentle hands had operated on wounded soldiers in the middle of firefights. She knows how to heal, Dr. Vexhai said, but that means she also knows how to harm. A medic understands the human body better than any other soldier. She knows exactly where to strike to disable or kill. Kevin Harris, the quiet woodworker, had been a combat engineer. He had built fortifications under enemy fire and repaired military equipment in war zones. His skill with tools and wood came from years of building things that could withstand explosions and gunfire. Even their hobbies are training, Commander, Crickstall realized as he read more files. They hunt wild animals for sport, keeping their tracking and shooting skills sharp. They practice martial arts and boxing, maintaining their hand-to-hand combat abilities. They go camping and hiking, learning to survive in any environment. The aliens discovered that humans had something called recreational warfare. They played games with paint guns, practicing urban combat in their free time. They competed in obstacle courses that trained them for military operations. They learned wilderness survival skills as a form of entertainment. Their entire society is a military training program, Dr. Vexhai said in amazement. They never stop being warriors. They just pretend to be civilians. Commander Crickstall studied the data on human sports and entertainment. Their games were combat training in disguise. Football taught them teamwork and strategy. Wrestling and boxing kept them ready for physical fights. Even their video games were simulations of warfare and tactics. Look at their schools, Commander Crickstall said, pointing to another screen. They teach their children to compete, to win, to never give up. They create science projects that could be weapons. They study history by learning about every war their species has ever fought. The aliens realized that human children were being raised as future soldiers, even though they did not know it. Every lesson, every game, every activity was secretly preparing them for war. The humans called it education, but it was really military training that never ended. No wonder they changed so quickly at the market, Dr. Vexhai said. They were not becoming warriors. They were just stopping their pretense of being civilians. Commander Crickstall felt a deep fear growing in his chest. The Zephyrian Empire had conquered many worlds, but they had never faced anything like this. Other species had armies and civilians, soldiers and non-combatants, but humans were all soldiers, all the time. They had simply chosen to hide their true nature. Send a message to the fleet, Commander Crickstall ordered. Tell them we have made a terrible mistake. These humans are not prey. They are predators who have been pretending to be prey. The alien commander looked at the screens showing Earth. Below, the blue planet looked peaceful and beautiful, but now he knew the truth. Every human city was a military base. Every human civilian was a soldier in disguise. Every human home was a potential fortress. They let us watch them for 3 years, Commander Crickstall said quietly. They knew we were here, and they let us see what they wanted us to see. We were not hunting them. They were hunting us. The revelation was complete. The aliens had not discovered a planet full of sheep. They had stumbled into a world of wolves who had been waiting patiently for someone to threaten their pack. The hunt was about to begin, and the aliens were not the hunters. They were the prey. The alien fleet hung in space above Earth like a dark cloud. Commander Crickstall had called for reinforcements after the disaster at the farmer's market. Now 50 Zephyrian warships surrounded the blue planet, preparing for what they knew would be a real war. The humans had shown their true faces, and the aliens were no longer underestimating them. Down on Earth, the transformation was spreading like wildfire. News of the first contact had reached every corner of the planet within hours. Humans who had been living peaceful lives suddenly remembered skills they had not used in years. The thin layer of civilization that covered their warrior nature began to peel away. Danny Wright closed his coffee shop in downtown Seattle and walked to his garage. He had been serving coffee and pastries to office workers for 8 years, but before that he had been an Air Force pilot. His hands, which had been gentle while making lattes, now moved with deadly precision as he checked his old flight gear. "Haven't worn this uniform in a decade," Danny said to himself as he pulled on his pilot's jacket. The jacket still fit perfectly, and the moment he put it on, he felt the change. The friendly coffee shop owner was gone, replaced by a warrior who had flown combat missions over enemy territory. Danny's phone buzzed with a text message from his old squadron leader. Code red. All pilots report to base immediately. This is not a drill. Within an hour, Danny was in the cockpit of an F-22 fighter jet, his hands steady on the controls. He had not flown a military aircraft in years, but his body remembered every movement. The coffee shop owner, who smiled at customers, had become a predator stalking alien ships through the sky. Carol Jensen left her job at the small-town library and drove to a house in the countryside. To her neighbors, she was just a quiet woman who helped people find books. But Carol had been a CIA operative for 15 years before she became a librarian. Her skill at finding information had once been used to track down terrorists and enemy agents. "Time to go back to work," Carol said as she opened a hidden room in her basement. The room was filled with computers, radios, and equipment that did not belong in a librarian's house. Within minutes, she was connected to intelligence networks around the world, gathering information about the alien fleet. Carol's ability to help people find books was really her talent for intelligence gathering. She could find any piece of information, no matter how well hidden. Her quiet library had been the perfect cover for someone who needed to blend into a community while staying connected to the shadow world of espionage that the aliens watched from space as more humans revealed their true nature. Steve Miller, who had been a mild-mannered accountant, was now analyzing satellite data to predict alien attack patterns. His skill with numbers and patterns, which he had used to track financial information, was now being used to track enemy movements. "Their accountant is an intelligence analyst," Dr. Vex High reported to Commander Krickstall. "He can predict our flight patterns by studying our fuel consumption and orbital mechanics." Tony Rodriguez, who had been running a small restaurant in San Antonio, was now coordinating supply lines for the human defense. His ability to manage food service for hundreds of customers translated perfectly to managing logistics for military operations. He could keep an army fed and equipped using the same skills he had learned in the restaurant business. "The cook is a logistics expert," Dr. Vex High continued. "He can supply a military campaign using food distribution networks." The aliens were learning that human civilian jobs were just military skills in disguise. Every peaceful profession was really a form of warfare training. The humans had never stopped being soldiers. They had just found different ways to use their talents. In Chicago, a group of construction workers led by Frank Morrison were building defensive positions around the city. Frank had been a combat engineer in the Army, and his crew included other veterans who knew how to build things that could withstand explosions and gunfire. They were turning the city into a fortress, using their construction skills to create military defenses. "They are fortifying their cities," Commander Krickstall observed. "Their construction workers are really military engineers." The aliens watched in horror as human cities transformed into military bases. Office buildings became command centers. Shopping malls became supply depots. Schools became training facilities. The humans were not just preparing to fight. They were preparing to win. Dr. Patricia Wells, who had been a pediatrician in Boston, was now running a field hospital for wounded soldiers. Her gentle care for sick children had prepared her to operate on battle injuries under the worst conditions. She could save lives while bombs exploded around her, using the same steady hands that had once given children their vaccinations. "Even their doctors are warriors," Dr. Vexy said in amazement. "They can keep their soldiers fighting no matter how badly injured they are." The aliens began to understand that human society was designed for war, even though it looked peaceful. Every human institution had a military purpose. Their hospitals could treat battle wounds. Their schools could train soldiers. Their factories could build weapons. Their farms could feed armies. Robert Taylor, who had been a truck driver, was now moving military equipment across the country. His knowledge of roads and highways, gained from years of delivering goods, made him perfect for moving tanks and missiles without being detected. He could get a convoy from New York to California while avoiding enemy surveillance. Their delivery system is a military transport network, Commander Krickstall realized. They can move armies across their entire planet using civilian infrastructure. The aliens watched as human children participated in the war effort. These were not soldiers, but they were not helpless civilians either. Children who had been playing video games about war were now helping to operate drone aircraft. Kids who had been learning about science were now building communication equipment. Even human children were warriors in training. Their young ones are already being prepared for battle, Dr. Vex High reported. They call it education, but it is really military training. The aliens discovered that human entertainment was also military training. People who had been playing sports were now working as teams in combat units. Their games had taught them strategy, teamwork, and how to perform under pressure. What they had done for fun, they could now do in war. Melissa Carter, who had been a yoga instructor, was now training soldiers in flexibility and balance. Her knowledge of body movement and breathing techniques helped fighters stay calm and focused during combat. She could teach a soldier to move silently and strike with deadly accuracy. Even their exercise is combat training, Commander Crickstall said with growing fear. They have been preparing for war their entire lives, even when they thought they were just having fun. The aliens realized that humans had been unconsciously applying their predator instincts to every aspect of their lives. Their businesses were hunting strategies. Their relationships were pack bonding. Their hobbies were practice for killing. Everything they did was connected to their nature as apex predators. Gary Phillips, who had been a math teacher, was now calculating trajectories for artillery strikes. His ability to explain complex equations to students had prepared him to solve the mathematical problems of warfare. He could determine exactly where to aim a missile to hit a moving target. Their teachers are tacticians, Dr. Vex High said. They can solve any problem, including how to destroy us. The aliens watched as the human defense network grew stronger every hour. People who had been strangers were now working together like members of the same pack. The humans were not just individuals. They were a species that could unite instantly when threatened. They are not fighting as separate armies, Commander Crickstall observed. They are fighting as one giant pack. Every human is connected to every other human. The aliens began to understand that they had not invaded a planet. They had attacked a single massive organism that was now awakening to defend itself. Every human was like a cell in a gigantic predator that was turning its attention to the threat from space. We cannot win this war, Commander Crickstall said quietly. We are not fighting an army. We are fighting a planet full of apex predators who have been waiting their entire evolution for someone to threaten their territory. The humans were no longer pretending to be peaceful civilians. They had become what they had always been, the most dangerous species in the galaxy. The aliens were about to learn why humans had become the dominant life form on Earth. The hunt was beginning, and the aliens were the prey. A final battle began at dawn. Commander Crickstall led his invasion fleet down from space, expecting to face Earth's formal military forces. Instead, he found himself fighting the entire human species. Every city had become a fortress. Every civilian had become a soldier. Every human was a predator who had stopped pretending to be prey. Elena Rodriguez stood on the deck of a submarine off the coast of California. She was no longer the gentle marine biologist who had cared for dolphins. Now she led a team of former marine scientists, veterinarians, and zookeepers in an underwater assault that would have been impossible for any other species. Remember, Elena told her team, we know these waters better than they know space. We can hold our breath longer, swim deeper, and move quieter than any alien in a mechanical suit. Her team included Dr. Michael Torres, who had been a whale researcher, and Lessa Kim, who had worked with sea turtles. But now they were underwater, warriors who could approach enemy ships without being detected. Their knowledge of marine life helped them understand how to move through water like the predators they had always been. The alien ships splashed into the ocean, expecting to find easy targets. Instead, they found humans who could fight underwater. Like sharks. Elena's team attached explosives to the alien hulls, using their knowledge of marine biology to predict how the ships would sink. They moved through the water like a school of deadly fish, coordinating their attacks with the same precision they had once used to study sea creatures. Contact below the surface, an alien pilot reported. Something is attacking us from underneath. But by the time the aliens realized what was happening, their ships were already sinking. The humans had turned the ocean into a hunting ground, and the aliens were the prey. On land, Jake Peterson led a group of construction workers in the defense of Portland. They had transformed the city into a maze of barriers, traps, and defensive positions. Jake's knowledge of demolition was being used to destroy alien vehicles, while his construction skills created obstacles that channeled the enemy into killing zones. They expect us to fight like other species, Jake told his team. But we are not other species. We are humans. We build the battlefield, then we control the fight. His team included Tommy Chun, who had been a crane operator, and Eddie Martinez, who had worked with explosives. Now they were using their construction equipment as weapons of war. Bulldozers pushed alien vehicles into traps. Cranes dropped concrete. Blocks on enemy formations. Construction sites became battlefields, where humans had every advantage. The aliens found themselves fighting in an environment that changed constantly. Every street they cleared was blocked again within hours. Every position they captured was undermined by tunnels that had not existed the day before. The humans were not just defending their city. They were reshaping it into a weapon. Maria Santos coordinated the global defense from a command center that had once been an elementary school. Her network of teachers, librarians, and education workers had become the most effective intelligence operation the world had ever seen. They knew every language, every culture, and every way that information could be hidden or transmitted. Target confirmed, Maria said into her headset. Alien command ship is in Sector 7. All units converge on coordinates I am sending now. Her team included former teachers like David Park, who had taught linguistics, and Rebecca White, who had been a school counselor. Now they were psychological warfare specialists who could predict alien behavior and exploit their fears. They had turned their understanding of minds into a weapon that could break enemy morale without firing a shot. The aliens discovered that their encrypted communications were being decoded by humans, who understood language and pattern recognition better than any computer. Their battle plans were being anticipated by former teachers, who could think like their students and predict their next moves. Ben Clark led a group of farmers and hunters in the hills, outside the city. They had turned the countryside into a sniper's paradise, using their knowledge of the land to create invisible positions that could strike the aliens from miles away. Ben's ability to read weather patterns and wind direction made every shot count. Patience, Ben told his team as they waited for the alien convoy to enter their kill zone. We have been hunting on this land for generations. They are just another kind of prey. His team included hunters like Jim Foster, who knew every deer trail in the forest, and ranchers like Mary Johnson, who could track cattle across vast distances. Now they were tracking alien vehicles, using the same skills they had learned from hunting wild animals. The aliens found themselves being stalked by invisible enemies who could strike from any direction. Their advanced sensors could not detect humans who knew how to move through the wilderness like ghosts. The countryside became a hunting ground where humans were the apex predators and aliens were the frightened prey. In the cities, people who had been living normal civilian lives became the backbone of an unstoppable war machine. Danny Wright flew his fighter jet with the skill of someone who had never stopped being a pilot. His coffee shop had been his cover, but the cockpit was his true home. Alien fighters, 12 o'clock high, Danny radioed to his squadron. Let me show them why humans rule the sky. Danny's team included former military pilots like Sandra Lee, who had been flying commercial airlines, and Rick Adams, who had been a flight instructor. Now they were back in combat, using skills that had never really gotten rusty. They flew, their aircraft like extensions of their own bodies, hunting alien ships through the clouds. The aliens discovered that human pilots fought differently than any other species. They took risks that seemed impossible, made decisions that appeared insane, and survived situations that should have killed them. The humans flew like they had nothing to lose and everything to gain. Carl Jensen worked from her hidden command center, coordinating intelligence operations across the globe. Her network of former spies, analysts, and operatives had emerged from their civilian cover to wage a shadow war against the invaders. They gathered information, disrupted enemy communications, and eliminated key targets with surgical precision. Enemy reinforcements are 3 hours out, Carl reported to the military commanders. We have time to reposition our forces and prepare a warm welcome. Her team included people like former CIA operative Jim Bradley, who had been working as a bank manager, and retired NSI analyst Susan Taylor, who had been teaching computer science. Now they were back in the intelligence game, using skills that civilian life had kept sharp. The aliens found that their every move was being watched, predicted, and countered by humans who seemed to know their plans before they made them. The shadow war was being fought by people who had learned to be invisible while living normal lives. Tony Rodriguez had transformed his restaurant supply network into a military logistics operation that could keep armies fed and equipped across entire continents. His knowledge of food distribution and inventory management was now being used to move weapons, ammunition, and supplies to wherever they were needed most. Sector 5 needs medical supplies. Tony coordinated over his radio network. Sector 12 has excess ammunition, making the transfer now. His network included former restaurant workers like Chef Patricia Wilson, who knew how to feed large groups efficiently, and delivery drivers like Carlos Mendez, who knew every road in the city. Now they were feeding the war effort with the same precision they had once used to serve customers. The aliens discovered that human civilians could support military operations better than any alien army. Their supply lines never broke. Their soldiers never went hungry, and their equipment never ran out of ammunition. The humans had turned their entire society into a military support system. As the battle raged, the aliens began to understand the true horror of what they had awakened. These humans were not just former soldiers pretending to be civilians. They were a species that had evolved to be warriors who had briefly tried living in peace, but could return to war at a moment's notice. Every human skill had a military application. Every human hobby was combat training. Every human job was preparation for war. The aliens had not invaded a planet of civilians protected by soldiers. They had invaded a planet where every civilian was a soldier. Retreat, Commander Krickstahl finally ordered his fleet. All ships, withdraw to safe distance. We cannot win this fight. But the humans were not content to simply drive off the invaders. They had awakened something that had been sleeping for too long. Elena Rodriguez led underwater teams that pursued the fleeing alien ships, hunting them through Earth's oceans like the apex predators they were. Jake Peterson and his construction crews had built launch platforms that could send human fighters into space. The humans were taking the fight to their enemies, using the same determination that had carried them to the top of Earth's food chain. Maria Santos coordinated a global hunt for any remaining alien forces. Her network of former teachers and education workers had become a planetary surveillance system that could track down any alien who tried to hide on Earth. Ben Clark and his hunters pursued alien survivors through the wilderness, showing no mercy to invaders who had threatened their territory. The humans had switched from defense to offense, and they would not stop until every alien was gone. The survey